there's a narrative being pushed by some Deontay Wilder fans that if Wilder versus Fury does 500,000 pay-per-view buys, that would make Wilder the A-side against Anthony Joshua. This is a ridiculous claim, and I'm gonna expose how ridiculous the claim is in this video very simply and very clearly. First of all, they're saying that Anthony Joshua versus Povetkin did less pay-per-view than Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker. And they've said that this is an indication that Anthony Joshua's market value is dropping. Totally ridiculous. Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker was a unification fight. So of course it's going to do more pay-per-view numbers than Joshua Povetkin. Obviously. I mean, a child could figure that out. If Anthony Joshua was fighting Tyson Fury in his next fight, you honestly think it wouldn't do more than the Povetkin fight? Of course it would. So they're comparing what they think Wilder versus Fury is going to do to what Joshua versus Povetkin did. It's not even a like-for-like comparison. Who would sell more pay-per-views? Joshua versus Wilder or Wilder versus Fury? I'm telling you it's going to be Joshua versus Wilder by an enormous amount. But anyway, let's entertain the ridiculous comparison that they've made. They're trying to compare two fights that are not really comparable because they're totally different circumstances. But let's entertain it anyway. Their premise is that Wilder is going to make more if he sells 500,000 pay-per-views against Fury, that he's going to make more money for that fight than Joshua made in his last fight against Povetkin. That's their claim. Even this claim is false. Joshua versus Povetkin grossed around 26 million pounds. Joshua is said to have made a minimum of 20 million, and that was based on a 1 million pay-per-view buy estimate. He actually did 1.1, so that's an extra 100,000 buys. So he actually did more than 20 million, but let's just deal with the conservative estimate of 20 million. So 20 million plus 6 million that Povetkin made, that's 26 million. 26 million pounds is how much in dollars? It's $33 million. Okay, so the fight grossed $33 million. Joshua took how many $1 million from it? Joshua took $25 million from the Povetkin fight, minimum, okay? And that's just from the ticket sales and pay-per-view revenue, so on and so forth, international TV. He took $25 million from the fight. Now, if Wilder versus Fury at $60 pay-per-view a pop does 500,000 buys, the fight is going to gross $30 million. But it's a 50-50 split. So that means each guy only gets $15 million. Newsflash, $15 million is less than $25 million. Joshua made $25 million in his last fight. Wilder versus Fury, if they split 30 million in half, it's $15 million each. Now, that is not including the gate. We don't know what the gate is going to do for Wilder versus Fury. Let's say the gate does 5 million. You put an extra, or maybe even, let's increase it. Let's say 8 million. So you can put an extra 4 million each, because we don't know what the gate is going to do. They haven't sold out yet, if they sell out at all. So let's say you add an extra 4 million for each man, right? So 15 plus 4, what's that? 19 million. So an estimate, if they sell 500,000 pay-per-view buys, including the gate and all the TV, we're talking about, because it's not really going to do international TV much, is it? I mean, you look at the BT, how much is it going to sell on BT? I don't know, we'll see. But, and is Wilder getting a split of the international TV? See, these are things we don't know. But as an estimate, with all the things that I've just included, you've got to figure, if it even does 8 million gate, ticket numbers at the gate. If it even does $8 million, it might not. In fact, it probably won't, right? But even if we include that generous estimate, that's still only $4 million extra each, which is $19 million, which still means that they made less than Anthony Joshua made for his last fight. Joshua made $25 million against Povetkin. 25 million is more than 19 million. 25 million is more than 15 million. Basic, simple maths. Because Joshua was not on a 50-50 split against Povetkin. So even if the Povetkin fight grossed less than Fury versus Wilder might gross if it does 500,000 buys, because Joshua was on a much higher percentage split, he still made more than Wilder would make if he does 500,000 buys. Do people even know about mathematics? Did they skip mathematics class in school or what? Simple stuff. There's something called a calculator that is available on your smartphones or online that you can use to work out all these figures very easily and simply. There you go. 60 times 500,000, 30 million divided by 2, 15 million. Joshua made how much? 25 million. So for Deontay Wilder to be the A-side against Anthony Joshua, he would have to make more than 25 million. This doesn't even really work anyway, because it was a Povetkin fight, which is not a unification or anything like that. But let's just entertain the foolishness for a second. The comparison they're making would mean that Deontay Wilder would have to make $25 million or more. He'd have to make more than $25 million to be the A-side against Joshua. Yeah. For this fight against Fury, Wilder would need to make $25 million or more. Maybe he can do it. For all I know, Wilder versus Fury might do 1 million buys. You know, we'll see. But even if it did, Joshua has made more money than this from fights before. The Klitschko fight, he made 32 million. And again, the Klitschko fight was a unification, but also a voluntary defense. Because Klitschko wasn't a champion. There was a vacant WBA belt on the line. So this is a fight that you would say was more comparable to Wilder versus Fury in terms of the scenario. Yeah, obviously neither Wilder nor Fury is as big a name as Joshua or Klitschko. But the scenario was similar because you had Klitschko, who was a former champion, like Tyson Fury. You had Joshua, who was the belt holder. And then you had the vacant belt on the line, all right? So it's a similar kind of scenario with a champion versus challenger, but the champion is the challenger is a former champion. Same as Wilder versus Fury. Wilder's the belt holder, Fury, former champion, lineal, mythical lineal champion and all that kind of stuff. Compare the numbers that this did to what you think Wilder versus Fury is going to do. That's where you see Joshua's market value. I mean, even against Joseph Parker, probably a better example, all right? Joseph Parker versus Anthony Joshua. Can we get to that? Let's have a look. Okay, here we go. This is the Joshua versus Parker fight here. And it says at the gate, they did $10 million at the gate, $10.4 million at the gate, and they did $40 million in pay-per-view revenue. So this fight also, like the Klitschko fight, did 50 million. Well, actually, it did less than the Klitschko fight, to be fair. It did $50 million in pay-per-view revenue. That's what it did. And I believe this was a 50-50. So again, this shows you the situation, right? This was a 50-50. It did $50 million. Actually, no, it wasn't a 50. What am I talking about? This wasn't 50-50. It was 65-35, right? Yeah, it was a 60-30, I think. Or 65-35 split in Joshua's favor. So Joshua would have got 65% of the pot of a $50 million pot. Yeah? So you do the math on that and you find out how much Anthony Joshua did from pay-per-view sales and live gate. But that's only pay-per-view revenue. That doesn't include international TV. It doesn't mention it. And so the international TV is extra money. See, here it only mentions international TV, it only mentions pay-per-view revenue, but it doesn't say international TV. Okay. Yeah, so there's no way of finding out how much it made from international TV. So it would have made even more on top of the $50 million that it generated from international TV. But even with that figure of $50 million and Joshua getting 65% of the money, come on, people. So Deontay Wilder, as I say, Joshua's last fight, he made 20 million pounds, which is $25 million. So even for the silly comparison that the Wilder fanboys want to make, Wilder has to make more than $25 million against Tyson Fury for himself, not gross the whole fight because he's on a 50-50 split with Fury. He has to make more than $25 million for himself to be the A-side against Joshua. And even then it's debatable because Joshua has made more in other fights, which were unifications against, Parker, Klitschko, etc. He made more in those fights. If he was to fight Fury, you think he's not going to sell more than Wilder? Give me a break. As our Bricktop would say, do me a favor. Anyway, drop your comments in the comment section below. Let me know how you feel about this. It's Hatman, I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.